This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Projects for 2025, think about Dixieline Lumber. John, we got a lot to cover. Fans Forum box is just full of comments. A lot of people don't like the way you're dressed, but anyhow, go ahead. Pick a topic. Let's get rolling. Here comes Fans Forum.
Yeah, you're already getting compliments on that sweatshirt. So, hey, let's go to Flegel. He says, a lot of Orange County sports spoken today. How do you guys compare Orange County to San Diego overall?
Orange County is really different. Orange County is huge. The demographics of Orange County are very different. There's such an unbelievable Latino communities in Orange County. I think Orange County is a market unto itself that has not been served by not having really good teams. You've heard me preach. If Artie Moreno put a good product back on the field, they would sell out that stadium. The amount of money they could make if the Angels were winning on a consistent basis would be equal to what Padre baseball has become. I don't know whether Orange County's got a psyche issue with being the little brother to LA, but I think it's a vibrant market unto itself. Now, granted, there's no USC there. There is Cal Irvine and there is Fullerton and all the smaller colleges, Chapman University, etc. There's not a big university there. They're not really the home to the Rams. The Rams view themselves as LA. Artie Moreno views his team as the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, which I never, ever said. They sent me a memo one time and said, you're making reference to the Angels. We need you to use the corporate name. And I said, I'm not doing that. It's the Angels. It's like, I don't call the NFL team that used to be here Los Angeles. I just call them the Chargers. I'm sorry. The Angels are Orange County's team. Have been, should be forever. Put a good product on. The market's really different than the San Diego market. I think it's a very diverse, dynamic Orange County market. And I don't know what the population, if you look that up on your cell phone, what's the population in Orange County? Here's 3.5 million in San Diego County.
Right. Yeah. I would think that Orange County is probably similar to San Diego County in terms of population. This is my gut feel, because the overall LA metropolitan area has got to be like around 7 million, when you add everything up. So it just seems to me, though, Orange County is in one way, it's distinct and separate from Los Angeles, but in another way, it's all part of the sprawl of all of Southern California. So in some ways, it lacks an identity when it comes to sports. Now, when the Rams were in Anaheim, and I think they could have played that up, then you would have had baseball and basketball. And God, would imagine if the Clippers were in Orange County, they could have made that work. But I have friends that are season ticket holders for the Angels, other friends that live in Orange County that are season ticket holders for the Chargers and for UCLA. But I think Orange County is probably going to be one of those markets. If you have a winner, they're going to show up. And so Artie Moreno has an opportunity to cash in. He just seems to be tripping over himself all the time.
That's a great question. Flegel, thanks for joining us on Fans Forum.
Okay, let's keep moving here, and we'll go to the aces of movies. And he says, "Is Mr. Mara okay? Why did he keep Dayball and Schoen?"
Well, Ace, I think it's a valid question considering how bad the franchise has fallen, and how negligible the talent level is. The Maras are old-time family, old-time football. I will tell you this: the draft they had this past year, Joe Shane did a pretty decent job from a player personnel standpoint. Their operation on the field has not been good, And again, the amount of money they gave Daniel Jones at quarterback and then decided to get rid of him and eat the contract, take the cap hit, it's brutal. And obviously the mishandling of the whole situation with Saquon Barkley has just left a really bad taste in the mouth. But that being said, the Mara family has been very loyal to its employees and its coaches, and they're going to probably go one more year with these guys. And these guys got to get a quarterback. It is interesting, though, the way the dominoes have fallen. The Giants are going to draft third. And the feeling is the Giants are going to get access to Shadur Sanders of Colorado. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
I mean, him in the big market that is New York. Wow.
That'd be something. Yeah, that really would be. But, we talk about these legacy family names. Like, in Pittsburgh, right?
The Rooney's.
Yeah. And a lot of other teams have had these longtime family traditions that we praise that have done so much for the NFL. And the Mara family is part of that. But the Giants, they had their run with Bill Parcells in the 80s and 90s, and then not a whole lot since then, right?
No. Well, Tom Coughlin was there.
Oh, that's right. He won a couple of Super Bowls.
Eli Manning.
Yeah, pardon me.
So, they've had a phenomenal run. They go back to the way back days in the 1950s where they're the dominant franchise in the NFL, but they've really hit on hard times. I was surprised this morning because I woke up at 4:30 and I just started checking my emails to see the network guys that I deal with. I expected to see, as the fatality list grew, coaches getting fired, Giants would be there. And first thing this morning, about 7 a.m. our time, Giants announced, the Mara families announced these guys are coming back.
You probably go back to the Y.A. Tittle era of the
I grew up in that era.
Yeah.
Charlie Connerly, way back, the Frank Gifford era. Kyle Rote, yes. The Andy Robustelli, the Giants were really good back in the day.
The New York Football Giants.
Exactly.
Or the G-Men, and what was the sequence of events? Was the baseball team called the Giants first or the football team? Because they called the Giants. Because I know the baseball team was named after the skyscrapers in New York. Is the same thing with the football,
yes.
I guess?
Yeah. It's just the New York Football Giants, and that goes back to the 1930s.
1930s. Yeah, when the baseball team moved to San Francisco, and that was my childhood team, I wanted the Giants to be San Francisco, not New York anymore.
You didn't want them to be the San Francisco Seals, the legendary PCL team?
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, that's where we are. Hey, good call. Ace, we'll see where this goes. They need a quarterback. How about Shedeur Sanders in the Big Apple? That's a rumor with the third pick in the draft. Because the quarterback number 1 to Tennessee is going to be the Miami quarterback, Cam Ward.
Oh, yeah.
And the second pick is going to be a big stud offensive tackle going to New England. And that means Shedeur Sanders falls to the New York Football Giants.
Would you take Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter?
I take Shedeur Sanders. Hunter's going to be the 5th pick, I was told. But it depends what your critical needs are. New England has to get a left tackle, and they're going to take this kid out of LSU at number 2. And the Giants have to get a quarterback. That's Shedeur sitting right there.
Right on, man. Bring some prime time to New York.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Okay, let's keep rolling here. And let's go to Willie talking about Jimmy Butler. He says, Butler makes $330,000 a game. He has a player option for next season at $52 million.
And he can't find joy. What a basket case. I'm tired of this. And he's been a problem, in addition to being a star player, he's been a problem everywhere he's been. Talked his way out of Chicago, and he was a great player with the Bulls. Went to Philadelphia, did the exact same thing in terms of attitude. Great player there. He's a great 2-position player in Miami. Granted, they're not what they were before in the Alonzo Mourning era, but he's a cornerstone of the team, being paid as the cornerstone of the team. And I can't find no joy in Miami playing for the Heat. And I'll guarantee you this, Will, he's screwing with the wrong guy. He's screwing with Pat Riley. You think Pat Riley's going to take crap from anybody? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, we would kill to make $52 million a year and to play in the NBA, and then just say, I'm not having fun. There's no love here. It's just such a prima donna look, And
you think there's a few of those guys running around the NBA?
Well, yeah. And you know what? How'll end up happening is he'll end up getting what he wants, which he should get what he wants. But they just the drama behind it is just such a spectacle.
I would bet by maybe a week from today, when you and I are here and his suspension is up, I bet he's a Phoenix Sun.
Oh.
And then it's on to them to deal with all the crapola that Jimmy Butler is.
What's like Kyrie Irving? I mean, there's a whole cadre of these guys that just go everywhere crying wherever they are.
And David Stern just wants you to mimic what he said. I love this game.
David Stern, rest in peace.
On we go. Next one.
All right. So let's go here to RDL talking about the Padres. And it says the lawsuit claims the Seidler brothers made racist statements to Sheel Seidler because of her Indian/Asian descent. Makes it harder to sign Roki Sasaki and re-sign Ha-Seong Kim. It's an ugly situation. What do you think, Lee?
Well, I read the sentence about racial overtones, about her Indian American descent, but I also read further comments that had something to do with she's not qualified from a business perspective. And my only point being the point person representing the team has to be approved by the commissioner's office. And I think has to have expertise in all things business related to the business of baseball. Now, granted, she's the widow of the legendary owner, but does that make her qualified if she's never done that before? And that's an issue. But the flip side, the other brothers, according to the lawsuit, and I read a chunk of the 91-page lawsuit, the other brothers are of the opinion she's not qualified. She's of the opinion they bought minority shares in the trust at low prices to get control of the trust. What they did was illegal. I cut law school the day they taught it at Ohio universities to go drinking uptown, so I can't tell you what's right or wrong.
Buying and selling shares in a family trust, you think that the number of people are like 4 or 5 people that would be buying and selling. So who did the brothers buy shares from? That's just odd. We have a history of Joan Kroc running the Padres after Ray Kroc. I mean, didn't Georgia Frontieri, didn't she have a husband that ran the Rams for a while?
Yeah, and he got killed and she took over control and wrecked it.
Okay. But still, this kind of reeks also of some sexism too. As a woman, she doesn't know what she's doing. She can't figure it out. I just am shocked that Peter Seidler just didn't lay out a plan, and it's legal. And this is what it's going to be. Maybe he did. And these guys are just, violating it. I don't know.
We'll see where this goes. It's not a good look as it relates to the Padres, who have done zero in terms of spending money in the offseason on any major league player. And we talked about this last week, but this is not a good optic for Padre leadership. We'll just have to see the ins and outs if this gets settled out of court or if this actually winds up in court, but it's not good. And by the way, it's a baseball season that has to be played with a roster that's still not been completed. But again, they're going to move payroll. And if this is other baseball item that we talked about, Yankees and Padres have reopened trade talks for Luis Arraez, the first baseman, and the big money contract as a single hitter would go to Yankee Stadium. Padres would wind up getting a young pitcher and an outfielder as part of the transaction. The Padres would then be free of the $14.6 million commitment they have to make to Arraez. So there's roster we have at this hour. I bet it's going to change before they go to the Cactus League next month.
Yeah, again, Preller is plotting. Preller's got a whiteboard with plan A through D. He's got it all organized. I think a rise to the Yankees makes a lot of sense. Another local podcaster that I like to follow is the Divine Sports Gospel. He's a good kid, good young man. And he was saying, why not trade a rise to the Yankees for Jason Dominguez, the young outfielder? That could make a lot of sense for the Padres and for the Yankees.
Except you got a center fielder now in Jackson Merrill.
But you put him in left. I mean, this kid Dominguez would probably be a big upgrade over Jurickson Profar.
Has not hit at all, and is coming off a major injury. Dominguez's name a year ago this time was mentioned in possible deals with the Yankees. In fact, he might have been thrown in and out of the Soto transaction when that trade was made. So,
well, his payroll number is what, like the league minimum?
Yeah, $750.
Yeah, so the Padres need some of that.
That's where we are. We'll see where this goes. But the Rise thing just happened in the early hours today before we came here to do the podcast. Next one.
Okay, just a quick thank you here to David Ramos. $20.25. Happy New Year, Lee and John. David, thank you. He's a loyal follower and listener.
Great to have you on board as part of our team.
Okay, let's go here to David. He's got a question for us. And he says, the Astros, Rays, Guardians, Brewers, and Dodgers have the best pitcher development. Only one of these teams is being considered by Sasaki. Padres have invested a lot in development with little results.
Well, the results are they've traded the development players. I mean, that's why Preller, he traded 15 prospects last year to make the different transactions. The Dylan Cease acquisition, obviously what happened with the Soto trade, what happened with the trade with, was it Tampa or Miami to get Arraez? So, I mean, our prospects are playing somewhere else because we have signed them. They've signed high draft picks, but they've also move those guys off the table. It is interesting that Sasaki only met with 7 of the 20 teams that returned the blueprint. For the people that don't know, Sasaki's agent and the Japanese pitcher said, these are the things we want to talk about. They came up with a blueprint and they emailed it to every one of the teams he wanted to have a face-to-face with. And they said, these are the questions we want answers to. We don't want anything else. We're not going to meet with Ohtani. We're not going to meet with you, Darvish. We're just going to meet with your baseball people, your medical people, and the people that run your baseball infrastructure. And they met with 7 teams. I was told by an agent they're going to narrow it down to 4, and there'll be a second group of meetings. The Padres and the Dodgers and the Yankees. I think the Red Sox might be the final 4.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, imagine being a free agent and you have all these guys falling over themselves to try to sign you. Now, here, David's talking about the best pitching development in the league. Did you see that the Padres were ranked the #1 baseball organization? I think it was by Baseball America. I mean, do you give any credence to that? Is that legit?
They base that on how many prospects you've got. And the Padres have been ranked very high and respected very high for everybody that's in the farm system. The problem is AJ takes that chunk of players and trades them. I don't know how many prospects he's traded in the 9 years he's been here, but I bet it's got to be 30 at least.
At least. Yeah. And sure, there were some gems in there, but there's a lot of guys he's traded away that ended up being duds. So,
I understand that, but my retort to that comment is, have you gone to see a World Series game at Petco Park yet?
Well, do you think keeping Mackenzie Gore on the team would have gotten the Padres to the World Series?
I don't know, but when you've traded the vast number of guys, Trey Turner.
Well, yeah. I mean, that one didn't work out.
Will Myers didn't work out.
But see, when that trade was made,
Eric Hosmer didn't work out.
No, well, we kind of knew the Eric Hosmer thing wasn't going to work. It was more about credibility. When they made the Will Myers deal, I was on board because he was like this hot young rookie of the year, most coveted, prospect. And Trey Turner, we had just drafted him. He was only a couple of months into the organization. They had to make him a player to be named later and wait until he was eligible to be traded. So we didn't really know what we had there. But I don't know. You can't keep all those prospects. At least Preller is wheeling and dealing. And there's been no better time in Padre baseball history than right now.
It's been electric. I grant you that. The last 2 years at Petco Park has really been special. But again, I retort. Have you seen a World Series game at Petco Park recently? No.
Well, okay. They've been there, but it's been a while.
David, thank you for joining us, being part of the Twitter or All-Star team here. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go here next to Derek. He goes, Hacksaw, please tell me that Darnold's crash and burn yesterday is just a one-off and not going to happen in the playoffs.
Detroit's a tough place to play. That defense just went after him, and he didn't look good. He looked out of sync. What did he throw for 133 yards? It was the worst game he's had. Now they got to go on the road. I thought they'd have their hands full against the Lions. That building is so tough at Ford Field to play in right now. And yet, I mean, I was shocked that those 2 receivers, JJ and JA, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, excuse me, I was shocked they had only 4 receptions between them. Darnold just couldn't find them.
No, he was under siege.
He was under enormous pressure, and they were dropping a ton of guys and giving him all kinds of looks, and he got all out of sorts. So we'll see now. Now they got a short week, and they got to come to LA, but they're going to play in nice weather. And I swear to you, SoFi Stadium is not going to be as crazy as Ford Field was. So, and I just don't think that the Rams have enough bullets in the gun to match all the bullets in that gun that Sam Darnold has.
Well, the weather was nice in the Detroit stadium. It's an indoor stadium. I think that's going to be a good game, Vikings against the Rams, because the Rams have just been torching the NFL. I mean, they've been playing so well in the second half of the year.
They won 9 of 11 before they lost in the final seconds up in Seattle in a meaningless game.
Yeah. So that's going to be a hell of a game. And there, you go back in NFL history, there's been some great Vikings-Rams playoff games, going back to the Fran Tarkenton and Chuck Foreman and all of those
Purple People Eaters.
And the Purple People Eaters. There's a lot there. But I'm rooting for Sam Darnold just because of the whole comeback story. Yep. And I really want to see Kevin O'Connell do well.
Tell you what, the NFC wildcard weekend games, that's pretty cool. Now, the AFC games in the cold weather, you may want to watch somebody go out there and suffer in Baltimore and Buffalo. But the NFC playoff games, wildcard, that's pretty good. Derek, thanks for being with us.
Okay, let's go here to Joey. And he says, the top 10 of the NFL draft is in place. What do you think the Raiders do at number 6?
I think they need to address offensive line, but the top lineman's going to go very early to New England. But if the top two quarterbacks come off the board, then they're going to have to spend their free agent money to go get a guy. They need help everywhere. Can you say Ashton Genty, Boise State? I mean, they need a running back because you need a lineman to block for the running back to protect whomever the quarterback's going to be. They just need so much help in so many areas. They had a lot of young guys defensively, and a lot of injuries. I had great hope when the Raiders season started that Max Crosby, the free agent they got from Miami, Christian Wilkins, a big defensive tackle who I think is kind of the second coming of Aaron Donald. I thought Wilkins, the young kid they developed on the other side, Malcolm Kuntz, and then there was another number one pick. I think his name was Ty Evans. I thought that's a pretty good front four, front five, and they all wanted surgery. Nobody was there at the end of the season because they were all hurt. So the defense can come back and be better. I think I like their front seven. The secondary is awful wafer thin, but they got a lot of cap space. I was told the Raiders may have as much as 90 million cap space. Now they're going to have to convince somebody to want to come play for them, but they need help a lot of areas. But hey, Ashton Genty, lead running back, silver and black. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, they need skill players for sure. Now, let's just pretend for a minute, let's say Shedeur is the number one quarterback. You have Cam Ward as your number two.
No, Cam Ward is being viewed as a number one pick. A lot of people, Tennessee has the number one choice. And the rumor as of this morning is that Tennessee's going to take Cam Ward. And then the second pick would be New England, and they're going to take the left tackle from LSU. His name is Charles Williams. He's really good.
So those would be, so it'd be Ward and Sanders would be the two that would be off the board.
Sanders would go 3.
Yeah.
To the New York Football Giants.
And if the Raiders at 6, those guys are gone. What do you think about Kirk Cousins maybe going to play for the Raiders?
Rental, but
they got the money. They got the cap money.
He's made a lot of money, thrown for a lot of yards. Has he won bleep? No. You're going to do this again?
It's another Jimmy Garoppolo move.
Yeah, the Raiders historically have always looked at the shiny little object out there.
Yeah.
2 winning seasons in 22 years. You're going to do this again? Let Telesco draft what Telesco thinks really important, because he had 3 starters out of this draft that played a ton of football for the Raiders. So see what he does with that. But to me, Ashton Genty would solve that issue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think you can go find linemen in free agency, or you can go find linemen in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds. So interesting. We'll talk more about
sexy picks though.
No, who cares? I don't care about the damn shiny object up there. Raiders always look at that. I want to see a good football player.
Yeah, I need Gene Upshaw and Art Shell, right?
Damn right.
There you go.
That goes back 50 years, though, John. Okay, let's move a couple more here.
Okay, and actually, Joey had another comment, and he goes here, long-time listener, you guys are awesome. Let me know when you need a third wheel. I'm in.
Well, if John doesn't do a better job and dress better, you might be in John's chair.
One of the things that I want to do is invite members of Hacksaw's Insiders group to virtually join us on the podcast.
You want to do a special broadcast?
But I want to see it done more regularly.
You want to do a fabulous Friday broadcast?
Something like that. I think would be great, and have like a Hacksaw's roundtable and get some of the Insiders group guys, give them invitations to join us. We can pop them up on a window, and we can kind of rotate around the panel with comments and questions. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
You wouldn't like that, because then I'd be critiquing you about the way you dress.
Hey, I'll just do the production and get everyone online, and I think everyone will be happy with that.
All right, we'll think about that Fans Friday thing. Well, everybody is part of my Insiders group. You have enjoyed the Insiders group, go to my website and register. So therefore, you might be qualified to be part of the Insiders group. You'd be auditioning in place of John.
Okay, let's go here to another John Hopkins. He says, hey, taking a break from shoveling snow here. Crazy Monday. Who would have thought the Seidler family would add to the craziness today? I want to give kudos to Denver for bringing back the Orange Crush uniforms against the Kansas City Chiefs. They should bring those back for the rest of the playoffs.
That was a good look. And they had the old logo, the old Bronco logo at the 50-yard line, because I was dialing back and forth. And for some reason, at the start of the Charger game, there was a switching problem at TV8. And they kept going from the Charger game. Also, in the Bronco game, it'd show up. And I'm saying, come on, get back to the Charger game. I want to see the Raiders. And they go back and forth. It happened about 3 or 4 times, but I looked and said, oh, they're wearing the old orange, and the Orange Crush back in the day logo it was kind of cool. And of course, Kansas City sat everybody, and Bo Nix and those guys went crazy and beat them 38-0.
Yeah, that is a good look. I mean, that goes back to the John Elway era, and even before John Elway.
Exactly.
And remember the Broncos made a Super Bowl, I think in the late 70s. And who was their quarterback then? It was like an old timer guy. Name is escaping me, but it was before Elway. And it was like in 78, 77, they made a Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, they had a journeyman.
Craig something. Yes, yeah, I can't remember. But going back, yeah, those uniforms are great. And I remember when they switched to the new blue and orange, I never really cared for it. But that's the uniform that I think Elway won the Super Bowl in, when he did the helicopter flip here in San Diego at Qualcomm.
You dress like that critiquing somebody else clothing styles.
Well, you know what though? There's a lot of weird uniforms. If you go back in history in the NFL, like the Pittsburgh Steelers look like a bunch of guys that escaped from prison, with the black and yellow stripes and everything else.
I was back with the 75th anniversary.
Okay.
That had to be what, in the 1990s? The 75th anniversary of the NFL, and everybody had an anniversary jersey uniform. And Pittsburgh had the weird striping, and the Packers had the big panels on the shoulders. Looked really weird. But
it is a good look. I like that look there. And by the way, John, I know is in DC, right?
Yes.
So he's shoveling snow. There's a lot of it out there. Is the Commanders playoff game going to be in DC?
No, Tampa.
Oh, okay. Well, then they're going to catch a break as far as the snow goes.
A lot of wet snow there in the Northeast. John knows that I have a cottage in the Northern Adirondacks in upstate New York, just north of Utica. Just northwest of Utica, which is in that snow belt right off the lake. It's 75 inches of snow Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just outside Utica. 75
That's 6
inches.
feet.
That's damn right. That's amazing. It's just because it's higher terrain and you get lake effect. And it snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed.
Well, I was talking with my daughter's boyfriend's father, and he told us a story. He was raised in upstate New York. When he was a kid, he stepped out of his second floor window and walked right onto the snow.
Yep.
Can you believe that?
There's a picture that just surfaced on the internet today of a place called Prospect Center, upstate New York, just north of Utica in the snow belt. It's called the Tug Hill Plateau, higher elevation, and everything. The lake goes through there. They had a 2-story church, and the guys were on the first level of the church shoveling the snow. You could not see the first level of the church. That's how high the snow drifts were because of the wind.
Well, thank God there's like a steeple up there. Otherwise, you wouldn't find the building.
Exactly. And to quote John Riley, I enjoy winter weather when it's on my TV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Let's do a couple more here before we go to social media.
Okay, let's go here to Richard. And fans forum, he goes, if the Dodgers get Roki, would LA be the most hated team in Major League Baseball? Would the loss be just another hit on the Padres offseason and their lack of spending?
Oh, that's Dodger fan just piling on. No, he can identify with most hated. I mean, during the Yankee era, evil empire, when the Yankees and Steinbrenner did this stuff on a regular basis. It is interesting, though, because Jim Bowden, former general manager, Major League Baseball, who now is a freelance columnist and does stuff for The Athletic and has been on ESPN, he just wrote a story early this morning about who's left in the bidding for Sasaki. And he thinks it comes down to the Padres and the Yankees, not the Dodgers, because he does not think Sasaki wants to be in the shadow of Ohtani and Yamamoto. He doesn't think Sasaki and LA would be able to get the equal number of endorsements, corporate sponsorships those guys get. He says the Padres don't have that history, so there would be an open market for there. But New York is New York, and that's number one. And he thinks that if the Yankees got Sasaki, the amount of addendum money that Sasaki would get from corporate endorsements would be monstrous because it's New York City. And all he has to compare with is Ohtani, because Ohtani got 15 corporate sponsorships through the Dodgers when he signed. You go through Dodger Stadium, and there are Japanese corporate sponsor logos everywhere in the stadium, which that's all the money that's pouring into the Dodgers, and Ohtani obviously is getting paid by virtue of that.
Yeah, but Otani is such an established star,
Sure.
and where Sasaki is like what 23 years old. I mean, he's a kid with a lot of potential. Why do we not hear about the Mariners in the mix for Sasaki?
Their ownership is just taking the checkbook away from Jerry DiPoto, and they have the great history of Ichiro Suzuki, but they've not really won, and they seem to have a streamlined budget. They're trying to stay south of 100 million. They got really great young pitching, which is very affordable. Don't have enough bats to put around their star outfielder, Julio Rodriguez. It would make a lot of sense, but I am surprised with their legacy of what they did with Ichiro, that they've not become a player in the Sasaki thing.
Wild. Hey, we got an update here from Willie, and he said, yeah, it was Craig Morton. Craig Morton. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Ex-Cowboy.
Yeah, Morton and Staubach rotated in Dallas before he was traded to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who I was thinking of. And I think that was in the late 70s when they made that. And that was the Orange Crush, the rushing, the defensive line guys.
Yeah, Randy Gradishar and company.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go up here to a couple more. There's so many comments here, and I try to get everybody in as I can. Let's go here to Callan. He goes, afternoon, Lee and John. Love the sweatshirt saw. What a win for Team USA last night. Congrats to Frank Vetrano on the extension. And using your line, the Ducks have turned a corner, but a long way to go.
Well, a long way to go. They're a 500 hockey team, but they have not been a 500 hockey team in a long time. And they're playing good hockey, close to the best. They are scoring goals. Finally, Leo Carlsson, I think, is a star in the making. And Troy Terry's had a really strong start to this season than they had before. Young defensemen are playing well. John Gibson has helped with Luka Dostal in goal. They really look to be a complete team. And the amazing thing is they've dragged themselves from utter last place to being 500. And I grant you, they're not the elite team in the NHL. But they've done this without Trevor Zegras, who's supposed to be their next superstar because he's always hurt. And he's back on the injured list again. So we'll see. But this is a turn the corner point for them. I'd like to see it happen down here with the AHL San Diego Gulls. They're just having a tough time. They're 9, 19, and 4.
Ooh.
So, I mean, they've won only 9 of 32 games. They can't score goals. They have so many one-goal losses, and they're getting good goaltending, and they score some goals in bunches, but they keep losing one-goal games, overtime games, shootout games, etc. So that's because the Ducks have taken all the good kids, put them up north.
Well, we've talked a little bit earlier about the Orange County market and the dynamics there. Are they selling out games for the Ducks?
They've come back. They haven't been in the playoffs in a while. Stanley Cup was in the rearview mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Niedermeyer and all those guys. The crowds had dipped, but they've come back this season. And again, they had a high market. I think it's a bonanza of a market if you put a good product on the field. Artie Moreno, please pay attention. Memos coming your way as to how, if I were king, how I would fix it. But no, Ducks are drawing better now, and they're playing really good team hockey. It's not scoring 7 goals a game, but they're beating people 2-1. I mean, they beat Winnipeg. Winnipeg's one of the best teams in the NHL. They beat Winnipeg. And they were right in it to the bitter end with Edmonton just the other night. So they're playing much better hockey.
Hey, just to follow up, you said if I were king. You say that a lot, but just for fun, do you think you could be a general manager for a sports team? And if you were, what sport would it be?
I don't think so, because I don't know that I'd have the patience with the amount of money that's being paid and agents coming and asking for everything, including my firstborn. I just don't know that I could handle that. Every general manager I know loves it getting in, hates it by the time he's done, because the pressure is so immense. And you go to a game and you watch your team and they lose and you're just heartsick, or you're angry, and you're under the spotlight, under the glare every minute of every day about why is this roster not work? Why did this guy make this mistake? What are you going to do about all these injuries? And your draft didn't pan out, or we're waiting on this guy you said was going to be great, hasn't got there yet. It's a tough job. But then again, they make a lot of money.
Well, they do. But imagine being a general manager and all that responsibility, and also being the head coach. The guys in the NFL, some of them like Belichick did double duty.
And not very well, I might add. And those situations, few and far between.
Few and far between. Okay. Let's get one more here in the live chat. This is from Chris. He He goes, Rex Ryan definitely wants the Jets job, but now that his undeniable foot fetish is completely out in the open, will it be a roadblock in the hiring process? Side note, your spelling of Michael Penix in the best 15 is causing folks to blush. Show me your damn lightning bolt.
Oh, spell check must not have worked.
Yeah, they replaced the X with an S. I corrected it when we sent out the best 15 this morning, but I didn't go back to the website.
Oh, geez, John, don't leave me hanging out there.
Don't hang
I write all this stuff. I try to spell check it all, but sometimes stuff falls through the crack. Hey, but you paid attention. You're telling everybody to check the best 15 minutes in sports on my website. You never know what you're going to find there.
You never know what you're going to find. That's what's fun about it, because that's part of the fun of Hacksaw too. Because every once in a while, you'll think one thing and say another. And sometimes you get yourself into trouble. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes you don't even notice that you've done it, and then it happens sometimes too with misspellings in your column, but the content's still great.
I write all that content. That's a one-man gang. You go on my website and just start today with what I wrote, starting with the NFL and the football page, and that goes to the baseball page and the basketball and then the hockey and English Premier League. That all comes off my keyboard. I do all the research and I write all that stuff. So
you do?
Yeah, if there's something that's misspelled, it just falls through the cracks. And I apologize for Michael Penix becoming something else.
Just make sure you have the junior on the end. Okay, let's do the social media. We'll go here to Rob talking about Black Monday. He says, if Vrabel did a great job in Tennessee, why isn't he still there?
Because their general manager won the war, and then the general manager, John Robinson, got fired. Vrabel did a good job. I mean, he won a pile of games in a tough situation with an aging quarterback. Ryan Tannehill was on his last legs, and Derrick Henry was about to become a walk free agent, and they had problems with DeAndre Hopkins. But in the big picture, he created a culture where you played Tennessee, you were going to get punched in the mouth. They were a very tough team to match up and line up against. And, he'll probably be a better coach the second time around. And the fact that he was in New England, a lot of people have the opinion he'll be the guy there, or he might be the guy with the New York Jets. I am surprised. We thought that as of today, there might be 7 openings in the league, but obviously Dallas has not made the decision yet. The Raiders have yet to make their decision. So maybe there's only going to be 3 or 4 openings, and there's an awful lot of hot names out there.
Does Vrabel give you Dan Campbell vibes?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he does too. He just seems like a real dynamic leader. He's out there pushing his guys.
He's a little bit more stoic. Campbell is.
Well, yeah.
Oh, he's just great to be around.
Well, how many expatriates now have found their way into coaching? There's a lot of them.
A lot have, and a lot have failed. I mean, it's one of the raps on Belichick. A lot of people said, well, I'm hiring this guy off the New England staff. I'll give you an example. One of his great offensive minds was Charlie Weiss. Weiss was a head coach a couple places. Didn't work. Went to Notre Dame. That was even worse. So there's questions about, was it Belichick or is it Belichick's staff? Because the fatality rate of guys who have been hired off Belichick's staff to be a head coaches, it's phenomenal.
Well, it's not just the coaches, it's also the players. Because Vrabel and Mayo, have there been others?
In terms of coaching, not that I know of, but more his assistant coaches have gotten head coaching jobs and has not worked out at all.
It just goes to show you how hard it is to be successful.
I think it is. So therefore it spins back to is Belichick's brilliance, not Charlie Weiss's brilliance or Romeo Crennel's brilliance or some of these other guys that got head coaching jobs and then got fired.
Well, there's some guys that they're better as a coordinator. They're not leaders of men, like a Campbell is.
Yeah. I always use the phrase, you ask back when the Jets hit the eject button on Robert Salah. I thought he was a really good coach, but as a head coach, he was a hell of a defensive coordinator. He wasn't a good head coach because you can't manage everything.
It's like Norv Turner.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some guys that are just like that.
Yep. All they're great at is these X's and O's and this scheme, and that's their world. But you put them at the head of a job, and they got to manage offense and defense and coordinators and special teams and player problems. It's just too big for them.
It's like the Peter principle, right? You get hired to your highest level of incompetence.
And that's how you end up working with me.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, let's go more social media.
Okay, let's talk here about the Chargers going into the playoffs. This is from Donald. He goes, you can't fault the Chargers for beating the teams by the schedule makers made for them to play in 2024. Consider how they struggle due to Herbert's ankle and foot issues. which hampered his ability to move in the pocket or use his capability to run. Since then, they've had key position players get healthy. Younger players like McConkey excel as premier receiver.
No doubt about it. They've won 11 games. You can't take that away from them. But that being said, the scoreboard does not lie, Don. When they played good teams, teams with plus 500 records, they lost every one of those games. They've beaten only one team with a winning record, and that was Denver. And they struggled in those games to beat Denver. And you go back and look at that schedule. You just break it down, because I did. The teams that they lost to had a combined record, I think, of 54-28. The teams that they beat had a combined record like 48-96. So, I mean, they beat up all the bad teams. And when they played somebody good, a.k.a. Pittsburgh punched them in the mouth when Pittsburgh was doing well. Arizona ran over them. Look what Kansas City has done. Look what Cincinnati almost did, what Atlanta almost did, except they gave that game away. So, hey, they're in the wild card. I think they have a legitimate chance to beat Houston. We're going to talk about that on Thursday. We'll do a breakdown of each of the wild card games. But once you get beyond that, and then they go play the big boys the following week, I just don't know how far they can go. I love Herbert. I just think he's so much fun to watch. He's got such charisma and such brass to make plays, and just he has no fear. He's just a great NFL quarterback.
I just like to watch the silhouette of Herbert throwing the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Michelangelo's David, like this perfect athlete, But now you got Quentin Johnson had a big game, and McConkey's been playing great. Now you got two good receivers. What's the status on J.K. Dobbins? I saw he kind of torqued his knee again.
He got dinged, but he came back and he played. They don't have Gus Edwards. I don't know if this ankle thing is chronic, whether they're a little bit thin in the running back thing, but they got tight ends to throw to, and if they can protect. But again, you're not playing the Carolina Panthers with the New York Football Giants. You're playing Houston with Will Anderson and a fierce pass rush. Does that offensive front hold up? Justin Herbert, I think, got sacked 42 times this year, and he took a lot of hits. He stayed in there. He made a bunch of plays, and you can't argue with the fact that he's got 24 touchdowns and 3 picks, which is a hell of a number in this league. But when you start playing real people, starting next week, those defenses are much, much tougher.
NFL playoffs, man. Here we go.
Love it.
Here we go.
Hi, Don. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go here. Talk some Dodger baseball, and this is with Venega. He says, remember, Arenado has a no trade clause. Arenado wants to go to a winning team. I don't know why. Who would think a trade to the Angels is a possibility? Arenado will shoot that down in a heartbeat. He wants to go to the Dodgers, but they have Muncy, and the Dodgers already vomited to him as their third baseman.
Well,
or committed to him. It must be a typo. Another typo.
Oh, that fell through your spell check too. Let's be honest here. Arenado is a Southern California guy. He put 6 teams on the list to accept trades to. The Angels were one because he's an Orange County, LA guy. But the Angels said, we'd like to talk. But they said, if you want him, you want Reed Detmers, my former number 1 draft pick starting pitcher, you got to pay a piece of the $60 million that is owed to Arenado. The Cardinals said no. The Angels said, well, we're not going to do this. But no, he said he'd accept a trade there, accept a trade to Houston, but he changed his mind on that. And then obviously you got some other clubs. Padres cannot afford him. That's a big issue. That's a lot of money for the next 2 years. St. Louis is kind of dropping hints. Maybe they'll just keep him now because they can't find somebody to take him, because everybody wants St. Louis to pick up a piece of the $60 million that's owed him. But he was in the running to come to the Angels, and the Angels were really interested. And you bring him home, he might be a good player for 2 years. That's all you need to get 2 years out of him and fix your alien franchise.
Well, I think Red Sox think they're going to get him, right? I mean, that's where the rumor is. And I heard they were going to play Arenado at third, and they were going to move
Raf Devers.
Yeah, Devers to first. And then that was going to be, the Casas kid would be the one man out.
He's the one that's on the trade block that the Padres had interest in if there was a Dylan Cease transaction. But Boston's had such a good offseason in terms of acquiring pitching. I don't know that they want to take on Cease's final year of his contract.
Hot stove is cooking.
Oh, always cooking. Always some baseball to talk about.
Okay, let's get some more Dodger talk here. This is from Coconuts. And he goes, a little league coach can manage the Dodgers. Until the end of last year, Dave Roberts was a below average manager. He plays his favorites, which costs us more wins than anyone. Horrible judgment for the lineup card he trots out, and his use of the bullpen. 98 wins last year. That's crazy with one of the best rosters of all time.
Coconut, the only problem with that is it may not be all his decision. That may come down in the memo that the analytics guys send down every afternoon at 3:30 to Dave Roberts and his staff, which is a recommendation of this is who we think you should use, first guy out of the bullpen. This is what we think you should do with the batting order. So it's not all his choice. That being said, if you lean the wrong way, taking a lead off first base, we're going to pick your ass off. Coconut, I think you just got picked off. Do you know Dave Roberts has the all-time winning percentage in the history of baseball of any major league manager?
Wow.
His winning percentage, I believe, is 627 now by virtue of what happened this season, what happened with the World Series. 627. That's the greatest winning percentage of anybody, not just the Walter Alstons and the Tom Lasordas. I'm talking any manager, anytime, who's managed over 1,000 games.
Yeah, but a little league coach can manage that team. Now, granted, yeah, they've been blessed with talent. He's had a lot of weird stuff go down, like the Astros and the trash can in the World Series. You can't blame him for that.
They've mishandled pitching in the playoffs. I concur with you.
Yeah.
But that might not have just been his decision or Mark Pryor's call. That might have come from upstairs.
Yeah, but how much impact does a manager really have with the X's and O's? I think the manager is more impactful as a leader and as a clubhouse guy and an inspiration and a way to coach up guys rather than the lineup card or the pitching rotation.
It's just not in-game things, because the game comes down to my pitcher's got to throw strikes or my pitcher can't leave a ball hanging out there. But Dave Roberts has no control over that. What Roberts did in terms of that clubhouse, I've been in that Dodger clubhouse. There are a lot of personalities in that Dodger clubhouse. There are a lot of guys making a lot of money in that Dodger clubhouse. And that clubhouse is this.
No, they're tight.
It's all is together. And you talk about Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, they control that clubhouse. That Dodger clubhouse with all those rich guys, that was like this. What was the Padre clubhouse like the last couple of years? The Soto era, the Machado era? It was imploding. It was exploding.
Well,
everybody was
last year was better.
Yeah.
For the Padres. Last year was better.
But prior to that, no.
No. Yeah, you're right. Now, speaking of lineup cards, has there been any update on that golden at bat idea?
It's still in discussion stage. Nothing's going to happen for 2025, but it's being kicked around out there. I don't want to see that. But Dave Roberts, in the big picture, Dave Roberts manages people and personalities. When you got a bunch of rich guys, that's not always easy to operate.
No, it's not. No, not at all.
Okay, let's do one more social media.
Okay, we'll talk some NBA here, and this is with El Madriado. I was watching an NBA game with my nephew a few weeks ago. He got bored and got up and left. He asked, where are all the dunks? All I see is threes.
We had a game last week where Golden State shot 51 threes.
51?
51. And the league is seriously considering changing the three-point arc, moving it out to the point it would start on the sidelines and come out. You would not get three in a corner, which is the shortest area.
Yeah.
So they got to do something. The game is so different, and defense is optional. That's really bad until you get to the playoffs, maybe. But the game just, I don't know, part of me says the game's unwatchable. I love watching the talent and the athleticism, but all they're coming down is launching threes, and nobody's playing defense at the other end of the floor. Game is different.
The analytics guys figured it out, right? They say you got to take a lot of threes and layups, and don't do the mid-range game. But imagine if they made a dunk worth three. I mean, that would be a radical change, and we could see a lot more dynamic in the key.
Oh, you're really changing with the rules. You're probably running around talking to your other friends, the three other friends you have, that you'd like the golden at-bat rule too.
The golden at-bat is nonsense.
Too much French pastry, John. Shouldn't eat French pastry.
Okay.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast.